Dr. Sleep is written and directed by Mike Flanagan and stars Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, and among others. And this is based on the book by Stephen King, also called Dr. Sleep. And technically, it's basically a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining from 1980, yep, which was also based on Stephen King's book of the same name. And in this tale, we deal with Danny Torrance, who, if you may remember from The Shining, who the little boy in that story is now grown up now, and he himself is now an alcoholic like his father was from the book version of The Shining and briefly in the Kubrick version. And in this film, he basically is trying to cope with his past with the events of The Shining, and while on the way, he meets this girl named Abra, who basically has a unique technique like he does, which is also The Shining. Yeah. And they discover that there's this woman who's like this gypsy type woman, and her
played
cult,
by Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah, who's called Rose the Hat, and she wants to basically feed off of the ones who shine in order to basically prevent themselves from starving.
Starving, and not only that, they can live forever.
Yeah, to prevent themselves from dying.
Yeah.
And along the way, Danny also has to confront his past, and as you see in the trailer, the movie is basically a combination of Stephen King's book and also sharing the same cinematic universe as Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining.
Yeah.
Now, here's a little backstory. Now, believe it or not, before this movie was coming out, this was actually a film that was talked about for a while, before even Dr. Sleep came up, because for those of you who don't know, we and him did a Stephen King retrospect a long time ago, a couple years ago, where we talked about The Shining, and still to this day, the book, the film, the Kubrick adaptation of The Shining, I still hold as one of my favorite horror films of all time. And even though I've never read the book, but even though the movie I hear strays so far from the book, even as its own movie, it still works in every regard.
Now, I agree with him too. The Shining with Jack Nicholson, I mean, what can you say? This isn't a review of it, but I will say that it is one of the greatest horror films of all time. It's up there in my top 5, maybe top 10 favorite horror films ever made. And honestly, you know, no offense to King, and King readapted on miniseries, which I did not like at all.
I didn't either.
And I get that was from the book, but there's a time where somebody takes your shit and can make it like gold.
Yeah.
And I think what Kubrick did was like something that pretty much probably will never be redone again.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did, I mean, King, no offense, but he took your shit and made it better.
Yeah.
That's all without saying. So.
And then the legacy that film had brought on for so many years, it basically wasn't until the last few years recently that since we get in the whole Stephen King craze with movies like, you know, and also the same director, Mike Flanagan, also directed Gerald's Game, which was actually pretty good too on Netflix. And so they prompted pretty much the studio wanting to kind of do something with the legacy that both Stephen King's book and Kubrick's film led on. And because there were actually rumors for a while they wanted to do a actual prequel to The Shining called The Overlook Hotel.
Yeah,
I hear rumors that it was going to probably focus on the Delbert Grady, but I think, from what I heard, that because of budget issues, they didn't want to do it.
Not only that, Grady pretty much goes into detail of what he did when he was at the Overlook Hotel, and pretty much he did what Jack Nicholson did.
Yeah.
The story was told through Jack Nicholson doing exactly what he did.
Yeah.
Other than one son, he chopped his 2 daughters up and his fucking wife up.
Yeah, which granted, that wasn't from the book. The 2 little girls from the Cubers, they're not from the book. So doing a prequel, I can see why they probably didn't want to go with it, because they would really have to have King's approval for that, because King never did a prequel to his book.
Exactly.
So I could see why they scrapped the idea, but Dr. Sleep was in development for a long time. It's just they kept getting passed around from different projects along the way and different ideas. And so initially it was originally going to be doing a straight up adaptation, but Mike Flanagan basically wanted to do something a little different, because he said that while he is wanting to do a straight adaptation of the book from King, he talked with Stephen King basically to try to get the idea of, well, since the original Kubrick film has left so much of a legacy, why don't we combine that as well? He
actually told King straight up, it was being very blunt, because he wanted to get everything out there. When Flanagan was hired, he said, "Listen, I can't do this project without thinking Kubrick. Nobody after me, if I got fired and somebody after me came along, they would do the same thing too. Kubrick's version it's a legacy. It's like fucking what people call Citizens Kane.
Citizen
It's
Kane.
pretty much like that in fucking horror. It's the king, like that's what people go to study, to try to make a successful horror film. So he told him straight up, I gotta have Kubrick's version in this movie,
or at least some references, a connection to it. And Stephen King actually agreed with it, and there was also indication that. Well, we'll keep in mind that we're also going to have a separate spoiler discussion on this. Mm-hmm. There are instances that Flanagan wanted to take also from the book of The Shining that we never got in the actual Kubrick version that Stephen King actually approved with.
Yeah.
And so after basically upon agreeing with it, we ended up getting the first trailers that came out, and you could tell the nostalgia was already fucking there with the trailers.
Those trailers had me fucking pumped.
Yeah.
When I first saw the trailers, and So upon seeing this film, oh my god, I fucking love this movie.
I did too, man.
Mike Flanagan home run this shit. Like I said, Andy Muschietti did with fucking It Chapter 1. Holy shit, did what fucking Mike Flanagan, he did it.
He did. He actually brought us, not only it's rarity that I can find a film that I can watch that's almost on the same, on a different level, but almost like up there with the original Shining. And that's rare that you come across like that.
Yeah, I would say that what Flanagan did with this Dr. Sleep, I would put this easily in the top 10 best Stephen King adaptations. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. Like, I was blown away with it. That's fucking awesome. So, without further ado, we get into our pros. I will say that Ewan McGregor nailed it as Danny Torrance.
Yes, he was fucking excellent.
Perfect.
He was absolutely wonderful. He was already perfectly cast from the get-go, and he nailed not only what Danny Torrance would go through growing up and everything, but also what I appreciated with the fact that in this version in this movie, we also get to see Danny Torrance pretty much being like his dad. Yeah. Because in the book, because the Kubrick version didn't really spend a whole lot of time with it. In the book of the Shining, Jack was a recurrent alcoholic. Yeah. And with him trying to basically cope with having the stuff from the hotel and everything, Danny starts to become pretty much alcoholic over the years, and he's trying to recover himself from the events. Yeah,
I liked how the story unfolded, but before I get to the story, I would go to other performances. I thought the little girl was phenomenal. I don't know her from anything, but she did really good. Rebecca Ferguson, holy shit, was she on par with Pennywise, with Bill Skarsgård's performance as a great fucking villain. She nailed this out of the fucking park. Yeah. Not to mention, we'll say, she's fucking gorgeous in this movie.
She is. She's really gorgeous.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, how pretty she is, my dumb ass would probably fucking fall for it. Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm too mesmerized how gorgeous you are.
She is, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, she was perfect.
But and I also appreciated that, not going to spoil anything, but they also bring in other surprise appearances from The Shining that you kind of
cameos.
You do see one character in the trailer that's given. I thought the actor that they got for it was pretty fucking spot on. I thought that was great.
Yeah, they do some cameos on pretty much a lot of people, and we'll go into our spoilers on that. But I'll say that while I do have a little bit of a con on one thing, overall, I fucking was so glad they did it. They did what I was praying for. Yeah. And when they came on screen, I was like, oh my god, yes! The nostalgia of what they did with The Shining in this is fucking strong. Mike Flanagan's direction of like how he did this, he paid a lot of respects for Kubrick, and there's a lot of strong Kubrick feel in this film, which I heard a lot of people say there weren't, and there really was. Like, there's quite a bit of it, to be honest. Okay, it's not the whole entire direction that Kubrick probably would have done if he was alive and what he did with The Shining, but it's still a lot of homages, and there's still a lot of scenes that remind me what Kubrick would do. Yeah. Not to mention the fucking score. Not only is it's nice to hear the main theme, but we also get a lot of the other small themes from the movie.
Yeah, like even the unsettling parts.
Ding 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 ding.
Like the scenes, like in the original when you see Danny go into the room and stuff, that music gives you fucking pumped. And
not only that, if you guys remember also in The Shining, which they do heavily in this film, they always do that heartbeat thing.
That
Boom, boom,
boom, boom.
boom, boom. Like you hear like
it's kind of like the reminisce of The Thing, kind of, but it's on a.
Well, they did it in The Shining.
The Shining, yeah. It's that same kind of music.
Yeah,
it's getting
pretty much all those the scores from The Shining was in this film at one point in time, which I absolutely loved. Rebecca Ferguson's cult people were pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the shit out of them.
that. And there's also some stuff that, well, this falls into not only her character that I appreciate the most, but also these characters, these villains, they're actually, they're not only vicious and fucking brutal, like especially one scene, which we'll discuss in the spoilers, but also it's very rare that you see the villains that you kind of get like their side of things, basically like they have like a really general purpose that really like goes in context wise of what they're doing, because most of the time in horror films you're always seeing like the hero side and basically seeing their perspective,
and then you don't see the villain side
other than when they come up. This one, they spend a whole lot of time with these villains, and it actually, they are pretty, well, I don't loose term, but they're fleshed out is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they fleshed out to where you kind of get like a purpose what they're doing. You don't feel for them by any means,
right? But you can get
that you can get what they're doing. Where they're pretty much, I mean, if we were all starving, we would do anything to not starve.
Yeah.
So it's like they gave us a kind of like a bleak, a good story of like who they are, what they're doing.
Yeah.
And another thing I was actually surprised on with this film that I didn't really see coming. There was some pretty fucking brutal shit in this movie.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
As far as kids, goddamn, I was like, well, damn, it's like watching it Chapter 2 again.
Yeah. Well, and that also falls into Rebecca Ferguson's like character, because her intimidation, she comes across as very like you see in the trailer, where she's like Pennywise-ish, like especially when she's talking to that little girl in the trailer. Yeah. She's like, hi there. You know, she's like very
pulls out flowers for her and like, come over. And then, you know, just like really egging it on, and then then that's where she snatches her food like that. It's like, fuck, it's like Pennywise.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's just so great just seeing like them go for it like that. But I also got to appreciate the most too. Well, two other things. I love how the story even expands upon stuff from The Shining that was that Danny's abilities and stuff.
Yeah, like the structure of the story, I don't want to spoil. I'll go on my spoilers, but they do something very clever at the beginning of the film, which I don't want to say, which was awesome. They have three structures. They have that. Then we get in this story with Danny Torrance, where he's pretty much a drunk like his dad, trying to hold his inner demons because he's still seeing everything from The Shining, and then having to reflect on that. And then you get the sober Danny Torrance, which was later in the film, where he's more clear cut, and then it's like perfectly three patched parts put together. And I'll tell you right now, this film is edited perfect. Seeing the Overlook Hotel, which you see in the trailers, is not a spoiler. Oh my god, man,
they did memory lane.
Man, did they? And I'm glad Flanagan said that he cared about this scene the most, because when building the set, he said it has to look like The Shining, and it cannot not look like The Shining.
Yeah, he went and like he took a lot of the blueprints that I'm guessing he took a lot of the blueprints of what the Overlook interiors look like from The Shining. Yeah, and did it. Now there might be some like that are kind of off in some areas, but for the most part, it's pretty fucking spot on. Yeah, and I love the fact that they even leave like signs there, even showing stuff like. Of course, you get the bathroom scene, and then you also have, one of my other biggest parts, the most that was like I was like watching the exact same movie again, was the part where Danny goes in the bar, and they recreate the bar area, which was like really fucking like it was from 1980.
Yeah, and there's a certain person, which was very clever, offering him the drink, which I fucking liked. We'll go into spoilers on that. But anyway, there ain't much really on the
cinematography was really outstanding too. Great, I love how clear cut it is, but also I love that really like very winterish kind of look, and very like macabre, bleak look that they're going for.
Bleak. Now there ain't much else to really go into, so if I had any cons, I will say that those cameos, which I don't want to mention, is pretty good. It was great seeing all those cool characters back again from the book or from the movie of Kubrick's. But there was some times where I do wish that, since we're in the day and age that like Terminator, dark shit did this, but at least with that movie and other movies, we're in this day and age where we're doing the face captures.
Yeah.
Just wish they would have done the face captures.
That would have been cool. It would have been.
Instead, they actually use different characters, but I'm not saying anything bad, because those characters fucking did their homework on the character.
They look
it's
spot
just
on.
hard not seeing the original faces.
Right, it's cool.
And I wish they could have used this for the opportunity. That was one of my little issues. There was also this one part where, well, I'm not gonna say the scene, explain the scene out of spoilers, but there's a scene pretty much. This is around Danny Torrance's drinking problem, where he's fucking around, just banging hookers and girls from bars. And there's a scene where he sees something of that, and that girl had a little baby. And he sees a scene later on that don't really go into an explanation of how are they dead or
I'm
alive?
guessing it was meant to be some type of symbolism or something. I don't want,
but it doesn't explain.
We don't want to go into detail on it, but let's just say that it doesn't really like have much of a explanation, so to speak. That could have worked better with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you're saying with that. That was kind of, feels like, okay, that was kind of weird.
Yeah,
what did really that have to do with anything?
When did they?
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
But other than that, though, I mean, this movie was like everything I expected out of this. And you know what? If
Flanagan is becoming one of the best horror directors.
I actually saw another film of his some years back called Oculus, which I actually found pretty underrated too. That you definitely need to check out.
Yeah. What's funny is there's a couple people in this movie from Gerald's Game.
Yeah.
That old tall guy. I believe that's him that played at the end of that.
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also Bruce.
That's part of the cult.
Yeah, Bruce Greenwood's also in this too.
He's the AA meeting.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah.
And so Flanagan has a lot of his cast members from that movie, and like I want to check out Haunted of Hill House, because
I hear
that show is pretty good too.
It just seems like I'm hearing everything Flanagan stuff. I've seen some stuff of his, and they're really good, but stuff I haven't seen yet, I hear are really good. It's like this guy's really a flawless horror director. They're saying that he's becoming one of the best now.
Yeah, he's now becoming like our current modern day horror film directors, that like James Wan and guys like that are really like doing new stuff, like new fresh takes on stuff. And I appreciate that with this. Yeah. And so overall, I can't recommend this movie enough, especially if you like even if you probably didn't like the original Shining film, the movie does also do justice with stuff from the book that I appreciate that they even put into as well. That to give basically redemption for Stephen King fans. Yeah. And so with that, I'm going to give this movie a phenomenal grade on the Film Phreeks meter.
Yeah, I'm going to give this film a phenomenal grade on Film Phreeks meter as well. This is going to be my top 10 best movies of this year. I'm sure of it. I fucking love this movie. Go check it out.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Fair enough. For those of you, and I'm also going to put it be on my list as well. Yep. For those of you who have also seen Dr. Sleep and also read the book of it and watched The Shining as well, let us know in the comments below of what you thought about it. And if you like what you see here, you can feel free to like and subscribe to our channel and check out some other reviews here and our website at filmphreeks.com. We'll be seeing you in our next review.
See ya.
We'll see you later.